Jennifer Hudson has survived more heartbreak than most people could ever imagine. The kind of heartbreak that doesn't just break you, it reshapes you. And just when it looked like she'd finally found peace, love, and someone she could trust again, it all fell apart. Because Common wasn't just another man. He was the one who said all the right things. The one who talked about growth, healing, and forever. The one who made her believe love could be safe again. But sometimes, the words that sound the sweetest come from the people who leave the deepest scars. And now, behind the red carpets and the stage smiles, the truth is starting to leak out about what really went wrong, about who was really hurting, and about why even a woman as strong as Jennifer Hudson had to walk away. This isn't a celebrity breakup story. This is a survival story. And the more you learn, the more heartbreaking it gets. Before Common, before the red carpets and the headlines, Jennifer Hudson was already a survivor. From the outside, she's every bit the powerhouse. Grammy-winning singer, Oscar-winning actress, talk show host, an icon in her own right. But behind the smile and the spotlight, Jennifer's life has been marked by unimaginable pain. In 2008, her world was shattered when she lost her mother, her brother, and her nephew, all in one devastating, violent tragedy. The kind of grief that could silence a person forever. But Jennifer didn't disappear. She didn't let the pain define her. She sang through the sorrow, acted through the ache, and slowly rebuilt herself from the ashes of everything she'd lost. Then came her long-term relationship with David Otunga. At first, it looked like love. They got engaged, had a son, and for a while, it seemed like stability had finally found her. But even that story took a dark turn. Behind the scenes, Jennifer said things weren't what they seemed. She accused Otunga of emotional manipulation, jealousy, and control. She even filed for a protective order, citing fear for her and her son's safety. The public saw headlines. Jennifer lived the trauma. And yet, through it all, she kept showing up, to work, to interviews, to life. Because that's what Jennifer does. She survives. So when rumors first started swirling that she and Common were more than just co-stars on Breathe, fans weren't just curious, they were hopeful. Hopeful that this time, Jennifer had finally found someone who saw her heart, not just her talent. Someone who could match her maturity, her healing, and her emotional depth. For once, it didn't look like a messy rebound. It looked like a grown woman choosing love on her terms. And the way she smiled when she was with Common, it wasn't loud, it wasn't showy, it was subtle, soft, like someone who was finally learning to trust again and praying this time would be different. But when someone has been through that much, when their heart has been broken and stitched back together more than once, they don't fall easily, and they don't fall for just anyone. That's why when Jennifer chose Common, people paid attention, because if she believed in him, maybe he really was worth believing in. He's deep, he's spiritual, he's charming. The kind of man who writes poetry before sunrise and talks about love like it's a sacred ritual. But here's the thing about Common. He says all the right things. He just doesn't stay. From the outside, Common seems like the dream. A conscious rapper, an award-winning actor, a man who meditates, does therapy, and champions Black women publicly. But when it comes to love, the pattern is hard to ignore. Serena Williams, Taraji P. Henson, Erykah Badu, Angela Rye, Tiffany Haddish, Ava DuVernay. One by one, they entered his life. Strong, stunning, successful women. And one by one, they quietly exited. It's almost poetic in the worst way. Each time, the relationship starts with promise. Interviews filled with admiration, photos filled with warmth. smiles that suggest this one's different. But give it a few months, and it's back to headlines like Common splits from, or they've decided to part ways amicably. And the reason? Always vague, always quiet, always framed as mutual. But after the fifth or sixth time, fans stopped asking what happened and started asking why it keeps happening. In one rare, brutally honest interview, Common admitted something that stopped people in their tracks. He said he struggles with something called love addiction. Not addiction to physical intimacy, not to sex, but to the feeling, the high that comes at the beginning of a relationship. The butterflies, the passion, the thrill of being wanted and adored. And once that wears off, he called it a personal challenge, said he was working on it, that he was going to therapy, that he wanted to grow. And maybe he meant every word, but healing isn't about the words you say in interviews. It's about the women you don't leave in silence. It's about the hearts you don't break while figuring yourself out. And by the time he met Jennifer Hudson, that pattern had already been well established. He was charming, yes. Romantic, no doubt. But commitment, that was always the missing piece. So when people saw them together, Jennifer and Common, there was excitement, yes, but there was also concern. Because if he couldn't make it work with Serena, or Taraji, or Tiffany, what made anyone think it would be different this time? And deeper still, what made Jennifer think she was the exception? Maybe she believed that therapy had worked. Maybe she believed in second chances. Or maybe she wanted to believe that even men with patterns can change for the right woman. But sometimes a pattern isn't a phase. Sometimes it's the truth that hides behind the charm. Sometimes it just looks right. Two people, two legacies, one undeniable connection. And for a while, that's exactly what it felt like, right? When Jennifer Hudson and Common first appeared together on set for their film Breathe, the chemistry was instant. Fans caught glimpses of playful banter, stolen glances, and that subtle closeness that no co-star training can fake. But it wasn't until the red carpets, the joint interviews, and the frequent low-key date nights in Chicago and New York that people really started talking and rooting. This didn't feel like another Hollywood stunt. It didn't feel like Common's usual whirlwind. It felt like two grown adults, both with battle scars, choosing peace over chaos. They weren't flashy about it. No dramatic Instagram soft launches, no grand gestures meant for clicks. Just organic connection that slowly made its way into the public eye. And when Common finally spoke about Jennifer in interviews, it wasn't generic praise, it was intimate. He called their relationship a blessing. He said it was one of the most meaningful connections of his life. He talked about partnership, growth, healing, the kind of things you only say when you're serious. She's a beautiful person, inside and out. She challenges me to be better. She sees me in ways I don't always see myself. Common in a radio interview. For Jennifer, it wasn't just about being seen. It was about being safe. After everything she'd been through, grief, betrayal, public heartbreak, Common made her feel like she could breathe again, like she didn't have to fight to be loved. She wasn't performing this time. She wasn't pretending. She was just present. Even friends close to the couple said this time felt different, that Jennifer seemed lighter, that Common seemed more grounded. Like maybe all that therapy, all those past lessons had finally prepared him for something real. It was refreshing, rare, quietly powerful. A love story between two mature, talented, emotionally intelligent people. No scandal, no spectacle, just something that made sense. And for a brief moment, it truly looks like Jennifer Hudson had finally found what so many believed she deserved all along. A love that matched her strength without testing her peace. But sometimes, the love that feels the safest is the one you least expect to shatter. And soon, the cracks started to show. At first, it was just a feeling, a little distance, a missed event, a smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. Nothing dramatic, nothing headline-worthy, but for the fans who were paying attention, something had changed. After months of warmth and closeness, the public sightings started thinning out. No more late-night paparazzi photos, no more quiet dinners, no more subtle, flirty energy during interviews. It wasn't a breakup announcement, but it was a shift. Common began showing up to events solo. Red carpets where Jennifer had once been by his side now showed him smiling alone. And then came the whispers. Whispers that Common had been spotted getting a little too cozy with someone who wasn't Jennifer. Whispers that he was charming, familiar, even a little flirty in ways that made people wonder if history was repeating itself. At first, fans brushed it off. He's friendly, he's charismatic. That's just who he is. But it didn't stop. The rumors kept bubbling, and the silence from both Common and Jennifer, that was louder than anything they ever said together. Then, insiders started leaking more. According to sources close to Jennifer, Common had allegedly been making offhand comments about her behind her back. Little things, passive remarks, not cruel, but dismissive. She's intense sometimes. It's not always easy with her. She's got her own world, and I'm just trying to find space in it. Those might sound like nothing, but coming from the same man who once called her a blessing, a partner, a mirror of his soul, those words felt like distance. And distance in love can be deadly. But the real turning point, the moment that made even close friends question what was going on, was the proposal rumor. According to multiple insiders, Common had been planning to propose, not just thinking about it, planning it. And Jennifer, she turned him down. No drama, no scene, just a quiet but firm no. She wasn't ready. She wasn't sure. Maybe she just didn't want to repeat the past. Or maybe deep down she sensed that this love, no matter how beautiful it looked, wasn't built to last. And if that's true, if she really did reject his proposal, then what happened next might have been Common's breaking point. Because here's what we know about him. He loves the beginning, the chase, the intensity. But when things get real, when love starts asking for patience, sacrifice, and depth, he often checks out. And maybe that's what happened here. Jennifer didn't walk away. She just paused, took a breath, asked herself if she was ready to trust again, to fall again, to risk again. And in that pause, maybe Common heard rejection. And maybe that was all it took for him to start disappearing, emotionally first, then physically. When a woman like Jennifer Hudson hesitates with love, it's not because she doesn't care. It's because she's already loved too hard and lost too much. To understand why Jennifer might have turned down Common's proposal or even emotionally pulled back from the relationship, you have to go deeper than red carpets and radio interviews. You have to remember what she survived. Long before Common came into her life, Jennifer had already endured one of the most devastating personal tragedies in Hollywood history. In 2008, her mother, her brother, and her 7-year-old nephew were all murdered in a horrific act of violence. It was her own family, and it shattered her world. She disappeared from the spotlight for months, and when she came back with strength, yes, but also with walls. Then came her relationship with David Atunga. At first, it seemed like healing. He was steady, involved, and together they raised their son. But behind the scenes, it wasn't peace, it was control. Jennifer accused him of being emotionally abusive. She claimed he would call obsessively, grow jealous easily, and use their child as a pawn to monitor her. The situation became so intense that she filed for a protective order, stating she feared for her safety. Otunga denied the accusations and was eventually cleared of wrongdoing. But regardless of what the courts decided, Jennifer still lived through it. She still carried those emotional bruises. She still had to rebuild her sense of safety, not just as a woman, but as a mother. So when someone like Common shows up, charming, articulate, spiritual, it's tempting to believe it's finally safe to love again. But trauma doesn't disappear just because a man says the right things. Sometimes when a woman hesitates, it's not because she's afraid of him, it's because she's afraid of what she'll lose if she's wrong again. And that fear, that deep, silent fear of repeating the same cycle, of trusting someone only to be betrayed again, can be paralyzing. So maybe Jennifer said no to the proposal, not because she didn't love him, but because she loved herself enough not to gamble her peace. And if that hesitation was met with emotional withdrawal from Common, with distance, detachment, or quiet resentment, then maybe Jennifer was right to pull away even further. Because the version of love she needed wasn't built on grand gestures and poetic interviews. It was built on consistency, patience, and safety. And if she didn't feel that from Common, not fully, then walking away wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. No press release, no dramatic podcast rant, no messy social media fallout, just silence. In an industry where breakups often turn into brand opportunities, where one interview or tweet can dominate headlines for weeks, the end of Jennifer Hudson and Common's relationship was quiet. Too quiet. There was no confirmation, no denial, no red table talk, no magazine feature, no emotional Instagram story with a sad playlist and cryptic caption. They simply stopped showing up together. And at first, fans didn't know what to make of it. Were they just busy? Was this another case of we're keeping things private? Or was something deeper happening behind the scenes? Weeks turned into months. The sightings stopped completely. And while the world waited for someone, anyone, to say something, neither of them did. But in Hollywood, silence is rarely accidental. For Jennifer, that silence may have been her loudest response, because this wasn't her first heartbreak. She didn't need to perform it for the public. She didn't owe anyone her pain. And after surviving so much already, maybe she'd simply decided that dignity mattered more than drama. She's been through real loss, not just romantic disappointment, but life-shattering grief. So maybe losing Common, in the grand scheme of things, didn't even scratch the surface of what she's already overcome. And for Common, well, that's where things get murkier. Some say his silence was respectful, a sign that he didn't want to throw shade or play the blame game. Others believe it was strategic, that after another high-profile relationship fizzled out, he didn't want the world to start asking questions about why this keeps happening to him, why every woman he praises eventually becomes another what could have been. Because if you praise love publicly and then it dies quietly, people start to notice the pattern. And Common, he's got a pattern. But maybe that silence wasn't just about privacy. Maybe it was about protection. Maybe Jennifer was protecting her peace, and maybe Common was protecting his image. Either way, the love story that once felt so grown, so grounded, and so full of promise ended without a word. No goodbye, no explanation, just two people, one guarded, one drifting, slowly disappearing from each other's lives while the world kept guessing. And that silence, it only made the questions louder. People think strength is about holding on, but sometimes it's about letting go before you lose yourself. By now, the public narrative had already started turning. Common was going to events alone. Jennifer was missing in action. The sweet interviews had stopped. The Instagram captions were suddenly more cryptic than cute. And still, she said nothing. No healing journey posts, no breakup confirmation, no subtweets, just silence and strategy. Because Jennifer Hudson isn't new to this. She's watched love turn into war. She's watched trust turn into trauma. And this time, she wasn't going to let it spiral all over again. Maybe that's why, when Common allegedly prepared to propose, when he started speaking publicly about marriage and hinting at long-term plans, Jennifer pulled back. Not because she didn't want love, but because she didn't want to negotiate her peace just to have a ring. People close to her said she wasn't comfortable, that she hesitated, that something about Common, about the emotional volatility, the disappearing acts, the contradiction between his words and actions, felt too familiar. She'd lived this movie before, and this time she knew how it ended. Because love isn't just red carpets and chemistry, it's consistency, it's safety, it's truth. And Jennifer Hudson, a woman who's had her entire world ripped apart, was never going to stay in something that felt unstable, no matter how beautiful it looked on the outside. So maybe she turned down the proposal. Maybe she started withdrawing emotionally. Maybe she let the distance grow, because deep down she knew. If she didn't end it now, she'd be the one left shattered again. And here's the thing. We often praise women for staying, for sacrificing, for working it out. But what Jennifer did, she left before she lost herself, before she ignored her intuition, before she repeated the cycle. She chose herself, quietly, gracefully, and unapologetically. And Common, he might not have understood it. He might have felt rejected. But this wasn't about ego. It was about survival. Because when a woman like Jennifer Hudson walks away without saying a word, it's not because she's afraid of confrontation. It's because she's already fought bigger battles, and she's finally learned. She doesn't owe anyone a war just to prove she's worthy of love. At first, they looked like equals. 2 stars, 2 success stories, 1 solid love. But in Hollywood, and in real life, when a woman rises higher, things start to shift. Jennifer Hudson was soaring. Her talk show was thriving. Her music legacy was unshakable. Her acting career, still strong. And in every interview, on every stage, she radiated the energy of a woman who had finally found her lane and was owning it. Common, on the other hand, well, his star hadn't dimmed, but it wasn't burning as hot. His last few film roles flew under the radar. His music had grown more niche. And while he remained respected in the industry, he was no longer the center of it. And quietly, that imbalance started to show. According to insider whispers, Jennifer had become the bigger name in the room, the one drawing more press, the one booking more deals, the one brands wanted on their front row, while Common, once the spiritual king of conscious rap, began fading into the background. And some sources claim he noticed. There were murmurs that Common started feeling small in her world, that he didn't like being the plus one, that he felt outshined, even emasculated by the force that was Jennifer Hudson. And while he never said it directly, there were signs. He started skipping events she hosted. He stopped promoting her wins on social media. He became distant, not in anger, but in insecurity. Because sometimes, when a man says he wants a strong woman, what he really means is, as long as she doesn't outgrow me. And Jennifer, she wasn't going to shrink to protect someone else's pride. Not after everything she'd overcome. Not when she had finally reclaimed her power. The truth is, Jennifer wasn't just surviving anymore. she was thriving. And for a man like Common, who's used to being the center of attention, the one offering wisdom and depth and growth, watching her soar past him may have triggered something he couldn't admit out loud. Not jealousy, not resentment, just insecurity. A quiet voice that whispered, "She doesn't need you anymore." And maybe that voice grew louder than any love they once had. Because relationships don't just crumble from conflict, sometimes they decay in silence. When one person grows and the other stalls, and if Common couldn't celebrate Jennifer's rise without questioning his own worth, then maybe the end of their relationship wasn't just about commitment. Maybe it was about compatibility and power. So what really happened between Jennifer Hudson and Common? Was he the heartbreaker or the one quietly heartbroken? Was she protecting herself or pushing away the very love she craved? Or was it just never meant to last in the first place? The truth is, we may never get a straight answer. There won't be a tell-all, there won't be a messy podcast rant, because both Jennifer and Common have mastered something rare in this industry: disappearing gracefully. And maybe that's what makes this story so addictive. Not the cheating rumors, not the whispers about commitment issues or hidden identities, not even the power imbalance, but the haunting human possibility that even when two people want love, try for love, speak the language of love, they can still fall apart. Not because they're broken, but because they weren't aligned. Maybe Jennifer was still healing from wounds she never spoke about. Maybe Common was still chasing a version of himself he hadn't fully become. And maybe, just maybe, they both hoped it would work, but knew it wouldn't. Because in the end, love isn't just about timing, chemistry, or connection. It's about courage. The courage to stay, the courage to grow together, the courage to choose someone over your fears. And sometimes, even the strongest people just aren't ready. So here we are, left with questions, whispers, and fragments of a love story that looked perfect until it quietly wasn't. But now we want to hear from you. Was Jennifer Hudson protecting her peace or avoiding true intimacy? Was Common trying to love or just playing a role he didn't know how to escape? And when the silence settled, who was really the one left hurting the most? Let us know what you believe in the comments below, because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story about two celebrities. It's a story about all of us, about the walls we build, the love we crave, and the quiet ways we lose each other, even when no one's watching.